Okay, folks, we're going to get started this evening. Whoa, Larry, help. We have 3 quick public hearings, so you can have as much time as anybody needs to discuss them. And then we'll go on with the regular board meeting at 7:30 or whenever we can be ready. The first one is the rezoning of the properties, I guess it's SBL, whatever that means, 147.17-1-3, 161.02-1-28.2, and, where'd it go? 161.02-1-82. These are properties that are located over behind Tim Hortons, off the boulevard on Cayuga Drive Extension, if I recall. And 2 of them have the old green lantern. I guess what's the latest name on that? Was Cicero's for a while. Yeah, it was a hideaway at one time. Yeah. Just in Time. I think the last name was Just in Time. That's got a residence upstairs. It does have a restaurant downstairs, but it's currently zoned in R2 and R3. There's also a somewhat large piece of property right next to it, which abuts on Mr. Deventier's property, that he is also asking to rezone. The purpose of asking, I believe, has to do with selling the property. Because it's been vacant for over a year, a restaurant would become non-conforming use. So it becomes very difficult for the gentleman, Mr. Cicero, I believe the name. You're Mr. Cicero? You're Ron? You're the one who's asking for it. Why don't you go ahead and come to the microphone if you don't mind.
No, that's all right. You did a good job explaining it.
I think I understand the question, and I think it's understandable.
We purchased the property in '97 from the Diller family. She had passed away, and none of us ever thought it was anything but commercial. And then we sold it in 2007. We sold it in 2007, and then we held the mortgage. We took it back 7 years later, and then leased it out, and he left. So now it's vacant, and then we ran into this 1-year clause, and so we'd appreciate if you could rezone a commercial so that maybe we could find a good possible sale.
Yeah, one of the questions before us that we have to take a look at is the question you have. It's multiple properties. The one that the restaurant is sitting on is one thing, but you also have that property next to it.
Right.
That abuts on Mr. Deventier's property, both of which go back to the creek, right?
Yes, yes.
They both abut on the creek.
It's like 3-something deep next to Devontier, and then 145 or 150 deep next to the restaurant.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say before we open it up to anybody else that has questions?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cicero.
Do you have a buyer for it? A tentative buyer?
Not yet, no.
Do you have any idea what you want to use it for, why you're asking for the rezoning?
Well, it would open it up to someone beside a restaurant. Could be a daycare, whatever's available to commercial use.
All 3 parcels?
Whatever. We may take a while, but at least we'd have a better chance. We don't think we just want to put another person interested and then have them leave after 10 months. Because and then sometimes your taxes aren't paid, and so this way I know the taxes are paid every year and everything, because I keep it all up to date, my wife and I.
They left because of the zoning?
No, they left because whatever.
Oh.
But Mike Clark suggested that we go with the commercial. It'd be a lot better, and we all agree.
Mr. Cicero, there's a funny-looking little triangle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here's what happened. We bought, in 2002, we purchased that property from the Millville family. Now, evidently, that little piece in there was never included from years ago when the Millvilles had it. And then it come up, and she's getting this tax bill for this little jog. So she just signed it over to us, and then we just include it. But it does have an SBL number, which I pay
Okay, so
think-
you're saying that little triangle is owned by you, not by
Oh,
Mr.
yes,
Devon?
yes, it's all, it's part of the three SBL numbers.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, Mr. Devontier, you're on the property right next door. This is a good time to tell us what you think. There may also be people across the street that may wish to speak.
I would just like to say that my property abuts the vacant lot next to Mr. Cicero's restaurant. I would hope that I could make that commercial too. We could be advantageous to everyone if it's all commercial across the road. So that little spot of mine, which is R3 right now, I'd like to have that made commercial also. And, that's about it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
This is Jim. Roughly, how much land?
Like maybe 2 acres. I don't have the exact
Are you
dimensions
saying you
on.
want where that White
Where
House
my
is?
R3 or that, where my apartment house is, because I don't know what the intentions of Mr. Cicero is. I'd like to have that made commercial too on my property,
Okay, that was
which is
not-
adjacent to it.
yeah, that was not announced. We would have to add that and have another public hearing to do so, I think.
And I think that would make it continuous. It would benefit Mr. Cicero, it would benefit myself. Seeing the other side's all commercial, if you have the map here, I don't know if you guys have
Yeah,
this.
I'd like to see a map.
Small one right here.
So it,
I can pass this aerial photography down on the computer. Oh, you have it? Okay.
so I think it'd be beneficial for all involved if we're gonna go right next door to mine. It would be advantageous for Mr. Cicero also to have that commercial. My property is more of a pie-shaped property.
Yep.
I know Ron has good intentions. He wants to sell his property, and it might be able to help him out a little bit. And Ron, we've always been friends, so I don't know. Yes, 2212 Cuba Drive Extension.
Yeah, that's not actually up this evening, so we would not be able to approve that this evening even if we wanted to, unless,
Well, that would, have to go through, just like this came through the planning board. I believe it would have to go through the planning board. They would make a recommendation to this board.
Well, maybe we could have another public hearing and do it all together.
Well, this public hearing's scheduled for today, and it's already been published and posted, so I guess the initial discussion at this point, and I understand you would like to add yours, is we're looking to find out if there's any either opposition or pro or con for this particular plan. This does not foreclose the ability for you or another property owner to make a similar application, and that sounds like what you want to do, through the planning board, hopefully get a recommendation from them to send it here. But one is already before us. Your input is important, but we can't tack this on now, but you can certainly make an application to follow up, through the planning board route, and then, it has to be considered as well. And I think it also needs to be mentioned, the proposed Niagara Falls Boulevard rezoning, I believe, encompasses these properties, so they don't, Tim?
it actually is not in the plan at this point.
It's not in the plan,
This
although
is a separate issue.
that plan is, I guess, in flux, but
Now,
nonetheless.
that has to do with properties that actually abut the boulevard.
But nonetheless, certainly you're more than welcome, and talk to Mike Clark and get it to the planning board as Tim's eager to let you know. And then we can follow up with that. But
Well, I would say instead of all this spot zoning that you people say you're against, but now you're doing it again. Let me apply for commercial, we'll do it all in one day.
Well, we appreciate the thought and take it into account. Anything else?
Oh, nope.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else who wants to speak on this subject? Any questions from the board members?
I guess my question would be that the planning board at some point would have to get involved, obviously would be involved, but none of these roads, Cayuga Road's a 10-ton weight limit. That other little extension road, I don't know what, a daycare would be fine, obviously, but I think they'd be somewhat limited in what they could develop commercially.
Well,
And
they might be limited, physically, but the reapplication is to make it commercial, that zone, so they can, whatever they can fit under there and the limitations of
Yeah, the reality is that one property has been commercial, I don't know how many years, 50 years, maybe longer? And right now it's not allowed. It was never commercial, but it's been commercial. It was used as commercial. It's been a restaurant. It was a non-conforming use once zoning came into place. Exactly. That's exactly right. That is the crux of the problem. That second property, that big property in between yours and theirs, I don't know that it's ever had anything on it. There's no record of anything on it. Okay. Any other questions on this issue? If not, then I'm going to close the one. We have another public hearing. This is on the lift station at Jago Road. We do not have the engineer here this evening on that. Rich, do you want to discuss the lift station on Jago Road?
Give you what the issues are and why it needs to be replaced.
Please.
You need me at the mic or am I loud enough?
It's better at the mic because the sound system picks it up better for those that like to watch at home.
How's that? Can everybody hear me? The pump station at Jago and Rebecca is in dire need of replacement. It was built in the late 70s, and most of it was a steel structure. The supports for the supports are rotted out for the pumps. Every time we go to pull them out of there, we're afraid we're going to not be able to get them back in. The pumps themselves, I can't get parts for anymore. The company's no longer in business. They don't make that style. So we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get this done, and we don't have any problems in the meantime. But that pump station encompasses that whole mall subdivision area, basically from Plaza Drive back over to the railroad tracks. So there's quite a few homes that are taken into that, just because of the age and the issues involved with it. The best way to go about it is to replace it with a new system. The new lift station would be comparable to the ones we've already have in town, and we've replaced Whitmer Road and Claimer Road quite a number of years back with the same style pump station. We're trying to keep uniformity in the system so we don't have to keep as many spare parts on hand when we go to fix them.
And this is a station that's located just east of the railroad tracks on Jaco Road, right?
It is right at the corner. It would be the southwest corner of Rebecca and Jago.
Oh, it's way down there.
Basically, that's all you see is an electrical panel that sticks out of the ground there. The lid and everything for the wet well and stuff is basically only sticks up about a foot.
Does anybody have any questions on this subject? Is that by Barry's place there? By the fair?
By who?
Barry?
Mall.
I don't think so. No, we're talking Rebecca and Jago. There's an empty lot there. To the exact west of us is I believe it's Frontier Communications has a building right in that same area.
Any other questions? Any questions from the floor? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close this public hearing on Jago Road. Okay, it's 7:20, so I'm going to call for the public hearing on the other generator station at Clessant Drive. Rich and/or Tim Zuber.
This project is for the Clessant Drive Pump Station. It's a generator, rehabilitation. This, because it is such a large pump station, has a backup generator on site. It takes in most of the subdivision off of Kruger Road. The generator we've had some issues with. Once again, we're talking 1976, 77 when it was put in. We feel it's up to the usefulness of its life. Plus, the building it's in is a semi-subsurface building. So part of it's underground, part of it's on top of the ground. And being in that type of a structure, it has a lot of corrosion issues. So we're looking to eliminate that building, put an above-ground concrete building up like we have at some of the other stations, put a new generator in it, and hopefully be good for another 34 years.
Anything you'd like to add, Tim?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, we're aligning the new building on site so it'll work in conjunction with the other ones that are there. Keeping alignments of mufflers in the same direction so it's pointing away from the houses instead of towards them. And, you know, hopefully the newer generator with the newer enclosures and the muffler systems that they have on there is going to be a lot quieter for them as well. And not having a recessed system takes you away from the risk of having water building up inside there and having to go pump it out or maintain some pumps and everything. You keep it above grade and have everything ready to drain away.
What do we do in the interim while the building is going on for the personal use of sewers?
It's hooked up to the national grid system. The generator's only used on a backup basis when the power goes out. So in the meantime, while this is getting repaired or replaced,
System's still gonna work?
what's that?
The system is still gonna work?
The system, the pump station isn't gonna be down at all. If the power goes out while this is being done, we'll work on that. We have other measures we can use in a drastic emergency.
What brings it up to the $335,000?
This one isn't that high.
You wouldn't think would be that.
No, this isn't that expensive. I think they got 225.
I got it backwards. And I know our bonding resolution, Ed, you were looking at, are we going to 600,000 for this or something? And what happens if it comes in at more money than that? Then it has to come out of pocket?
Technically, we would have to have a bond increase. We'd have to go through the full process of all the safety hearings, fill out those increases. Basically, we're kind of putting this project behind. That's why the original project was estimated about $300,000 right now. And we bumped it up to get it up here quicker, because right now the problem was.
So we're still hoping it's not gonna be that expensive.
Yeah,
Are either of these subject to permissive referendum?
No. The sewer chief always says, make the question, not the permissive referendum. That would clarify the problem in the line, so we're hoping it's subject to meeting.
Okay. Other questions, gentlemen? If not, any questions from the floor? If no further, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing on the Clessant Drive generator.